Welcome to Davos Diaries. I'm here at the World Economic Forum in Davos, and today I have with me a Davos Pro, as we can call him that, Mr. Jaidev Galla, Chairman and Managing Director, Amara Raja Energy and Mobility Group. Jaidev, great to have you today on ET Now. Welcome to the show. So what was Davos like a decade back? And now when you cross this promenade, you only see India and more India. Tell me how the perception of India has changed over the years.
Well, India's image has definitely grown quite a bit in the last 10 years. I think not only because of our economic growth relative to the rest of the world, but all the states have become very active over the last 10 years. Initially, it was one or two states that used to participate. Andhra was one of the first that started participating. But now, if you look at last year, we had almost, I don't know how many pavilions there were. Yeah. This time, right across the street, you can see they tried to consolidate
India everywhere.
All of them.
Yeah.
So every state is represented and every state is competing for business. So I think that combined effort, the cooperative federalism is helping us in Davos also.
You so beautifully before the interview said that you come here to learn. I want to ask you, what's been your learning this time?
So this time it's interesting because, obviously from a technology point of view, it's all about AI. But everything is overshadowed because of the geopolitics, right?
Yeah.
This being mostly it's meant to be a business economic summit, but you can't escape geopolitics nowadays. And with Mr. Trump, President Trump coming tomorrow, everybody's still guessing what is he going to say. So it's a big mystery. And
what are you putting your bets on? What's he going to say about Greenland?
It's definitely going to be something controversial.
Yeah,
and whether it's
in his true style.
If it's limited to Greenland or whether it includes anything else also, we have to see.
Okay.
But he's pushing this peace, what is it, the Bureau of Peace or something? A new organization that he's trying to get everybody to join. It's something to do, I don't remember the exact name.
That's okay. We'll get to know tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he's been trying to pressure all the countries to join and become part of it. It's supposed to start with being part of the rebuilding effort in Gaza is the purpose. But it's not limited only to Gaza. What is the extent of it? Nobody understands or knows yet. So people are very skeptical whether to join or not. Some of the people who are currying his favor are jumping on board, like our neighbors.
Yeah.
But I think more mature, respectable democracies are kind of waiting to see what it's all about before deciding.
Yeah. So let's talk about your group now. From energy to mobility, the mega transition which is currently at play. What can we see from the Amara Raja group in the next 2 years?
Well, we've made our announcements and we're continuing with those same announcements. We're getting into lithium-ion technology. There's no very well-established manufacturer of cells outside of China and Korea today. India has quite a few people in the race, including us. I think Ola has made a few cells, but I don't think even they are using those cells in their own products yet. They're still importing what they're installing on their vehicles. So the challenges from China are what everybody is trying to get over. China is trying to maintain a monopoly on everything related to EV and everything related to renewable power. So rest of the world is trying to figure out how to get around that and catch up with them, including us.
Right. So I have to talk about what the future of battery technology is going to be like, and who better than you to answer that?
So there's always new chemistries being developed. Some of them are good, some of them are better than what's currently being offered. But what we see is that to build global capacities to meet the demand takes at least a decade. So we still haven't even fully absorbed the lithium-ion technology and the products, the EVs that are coming out with those products. That itself, we haven't overcome the lack of supply other than the Chinese product. So I think by the time a new technology comes up and OEs get on board and global capacity gets built, it's almost a decade that takes place. So we can see things moving in slow motion and we can react accordingly.
Interesting you say that. So I want to talk about the capex and risk factor because, while companies are looking to expand, and I heard a very interesting terminology just the other day here at Davos, FAFO, FAF till you find out, right? So till conglomerates are trying to figure out what the new world order is going to be like. What kind of capex do you think companies like you are willing to bet on right now? And do you go all in at this stage?
So we go all in, but we do it in phases. And we have to wait and see, look for signals in the market that demand is actually going to be there. So we are doing the same thing. We've announced almost $1 billion of investment over the next 10 years. Now 9 years, because we announced it last year. And that's going to be done in phases. So, the first phase will be done, and then we'll see whether the demand is actually picking up or not, whether we're able to actually, count on a steady demand. We have to wait and see if we can bring our costs down to be globally competitive. Can we export and compete with the Chinese? So all of these things we're going to be learning as we go along, but we'll be investing in phases.
That's interesting you say that. So what is this investment going to yield to? What's going to be the ROI? And how soon will it reflect on your books?
No, those questions are very difficult to answer right now because everyone is still trying to figure out how to get the technology, how to manufacture, how to get the raw materials. And we're confident that the demand will pick up. We're confident that we can make money doing it also. But I can't really share a specific margin
number to that.
Yes.
Okay. I also want to talk about policy and incentives because, one really needs to figure out how effective PLIs have been and what more can be done.
So I think the selection process for the PLI itself seems to need improvement because none of the people who were given the PLI for advanced cell chemistry have been able to actually meet the targets that they themselves have set. We participated. We are more conservative with our bids because we understand the reality. Being a battery company, the others have never been a battery company before. They quoted all types of figures to win the PLI scheme. But we're going ahead with or without the scheme. I don't think it's going to make a difference for us. But if the PLI has to be effective, they need to figure out how to award it to serious players and not to anyone who bids.
You talked about the China factor. What about the rest of the world other than China? Is there competition and is competition intensifying for a market like India when it comes to businesses such as yours?
No, when it comes to lithium-ion cells, China has a stranglehold. 80% of the demand is in China. 80% of the supply comes from China. They control nearly 90% or maybe now 95% of the raw material processing. Wherever the raw material is coming from the world, the processing is done by Chinese in China. And they control all the manufacturing equipment also. So if we have to buy manufacturing equipment also, we have to go to China. So they're trying to control all of these things.
So how do you break that?
Well, I don't want to give away my trade secrets, but we are finding ways around.
You're finding ways.
Yes.